Alright class, today we're going to start Unit 7, Section 3, and it's talking about factoring quadratic trinomials in the form x squared plus bx plus c. Now, when we look at this form with our trinomials, we do not have a common factor, and that's when you want to do it this way. Alright, so we're going to factor each trinomial and we're going to check our answer. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we got to find the product of coefficient 1 and 5, and those factors need to be the sum of 6. So here's what we're going to do. So the product needs to equal 1 times 5, which is 5, but the sum needs to equal 6. So let's go through our factors for 1 and 5, or for 5. So I have 1 times 5. 1 times 5 equals 5, check. Take those numbers and add them. 1 plus 5 equals 6, check. So those are the numbers I'm going to use. So when you factor this, we have x squared, so that's x plus, because they're both positive, a 1 and a 5. Now, here's our answer. But what I want you to do is I want you to check it by using FOIL. Or if you would rather distribute, that's fine. Most of you like FOIL. Alright, so you do first, x times x is x squared. You do outer, x times 5 is 5x. You do enter, 1 times x is 1x. And you do last. 1 times 5 is 5. Simplify, and I get x squared plus 6x plus 5. That's what I started with. So this is how we factor quadratic, means x squared, means your exponent is 2, when you don't have a common factor to pull out, like we've been doing. Alright, let's do another one. Now again, I'm going to draw my symbol here because it's my coefficient here is 1. 1 times 12 is 12. So the product needs to be 12. And then I draw this line right here. The sum needs to be 8. Okay, so let's go through our factors for 12. 1 times 12 is 12, but is 1 plus 12 8? No. 2 times 6 is 12. Is 2 plus 6 8? Yes. So those are the factors I'm going to use. So I have x, and I have x. Positive 2, positive 6. That's how I factored that. Now let's check it. Combine your like terms. Check. So again, you would use this method if you cannot factor out something common. Alright, let's do it again. And because I don't have room up here, I'm going to do my symbol this way. So when I multiply 1 times 6, I should get 6. But when I add, be careful there guys, that is a negative. So when I add, I should get a negative 5. Alright, so let's look at our factors for 6. 1 times 6 equals 6. However, 1 plus 6 is 7. So that's not going to work. Alright? 2 times 3 equals 6. 2 plus 3 is a positive 5. That's not going to work. However, what if I take take a negative 2 times a negative 3? Negative 2 times a negative 3 is a positive 6. What if I add a negative 2 and a negative 3? I get a negative 5. So that's what I'm going to use here. So I have x, and I have x. Negative 2, negative 3. So that's minus 2, minus 3. There's my answer. All right, I always want you to check so you know 100% you're right. So if we FOIL, and I get my x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay, let's do another one. Again, I'm going to do my little symbol here underneath, since I don't have room on top. So when I multiply 1 times 42, I need to get 42. And when I add, I need to get 13. All right, so let's look at our factors for 42. I have 2 times 21, but when I add 2 and 21, I do not get 13. I have 3 times 14, but when I add 3 and 14, I do not get 13. Sorry about that noise, guys. That's my phone going off. I can take 6 times 7, and when I add 6 and 7, I get 13. 6 times 7 is 42. 6 plus 7 is 13. So that's what I'm going to use to factor out. Positive 6, positive 7. So there's my answer. Now let's check it. Okay, so FOIL it. And I get the correct answer. Okay, let's see you try to do 5 and 6 on your own. I'm going to check time here. And I'm going to do them quietly. Be careful on this one because when you add, you need a negative 8 because that is a negative 8. Okay, and now let's do the second one. Now on this one, I think I'm going to work with you because this is the first time we've had our product where it needs to be a negative number, okay? So our product needs to be negative 20, but when we add, our coefficient here is 1. Okay? So, what factors will go into 20 that will also, when I add them, give me 1? Let's take 5 times 4. One of them needs to be negative because 5 times 4 is a positive 20. So let's make the 5 here negative. All right? So if I take a negative 5 and I add a positive 4, I get a negative 1. Well, I need a positive 1, so that won't work. So if I take a positive 5 and times it by a negative 4, I get negative 20. If I take a positive 5 and I add a negative 4, I get a positive 1. So that's what I want to use for my factor. So it's x plus 5, x minus 4. And then make sure you check it. And it checks out. Okay, I'm going to stop this one and start a part 2.